Welcome to our presentation on how to integrate email with ACT. In today's solution of email integration with ACT, what we have is ACT is connected to your Outlook email, in which it will actually integrate your sent and received emails. In many times we see this, it's a manual process. It is limited because sometimes you integrate, sometimes you don't. It is tedious, so you have to go to your machine in order to integrate the correspondence of your business, and it's unreliable. By switching the system on and off, the email does not get integrated in a timely fashion, meaning that you can be out on the field and you don't know whether the individual sent you an email or not. So now that we have the Outlook email integration, so where is the rest of the world? Today we have smartphones, we have tablets that in their own systems they send and receive emails. None of these emails today are being integrated with ACT. So our solution is to take all the clients, whether it's smartphones, Outlook Exchange users, tablets or laptops, or Outlook client software, and all these systems sync with Microsoft Exchange. So they have all the email data there as well as the contact data, but we're focusing on the email data here. And then we have ACT. How do we get that data integrated into ACT? Well, we use 123 Sync to do that. So whether you're on the cloud or whether you are connected to the network, 123 Sync will sync all the emails into ACT. So we sync the sent emails, we sync the received emails, and we also identify any bounce emails that there are that you sent out. We identify the contact in ACT that generated the bounce email. We also, of course, we sync the contacts, the calendar, and the tasks. The whole idea is to synchronize your whole working environment with the world, and we do that through the Exchange interface or the Exchange data store. So what are the advantages of such an integration? First, Exchange is the global neutral zone to put data. Whether you're in the cloud, whether you have a tablet, an iPhone, or an iPad, a BlackBerry, or anything else, Exchange is the central point of data exchange. We provide 24/7 email integration, and any device that syncs with Exchange can be integrated. We also provide bounced email detection. So if you sent an email out and the email came back bounced, we identify the contact that did that. This is important if you send a quote out and the contact does not receive it, so you have an opportunity to actually call the contact. We also provide up to 10 email fields to identify in ACT. So whether you have an email field or like a contract field or something like that, we can identify those. We also provide privacy settings on a per user basis. And we provide a mechanism where you can search the subject line for a particular set of characters that may identify into a field in ACT. And we run as a Windows service on the Exchange server. So let's go to 123 Sync and see how we can set this up. You'll see on 123 Sync we have a user here, and on the user settings we have all the email settings on email integration. The first tab on the email integration settings are the fields that are set up for us to search. In this case we want to search for email and personal email. By selecting multiple fields, if you keep 5 or even 10, up to 10 fields that you search for each contact, you can set them up here for email addresses or other subject strings. So now let's look at our email integration settings tab. On email integration, by default, we don't provide an email integration. It comes disabled. So if you want the software to integrate all your emails, you just click on Enable Email Integration. Now we're set up to start integrating. The next step is we have to define which inbox and sent items we want to use as far as inbox, and then the sent items that in Exchange or in Outlook that we want to use. So we just click on the folder, and here we can just use this inbox over here, and then use the sent items. We just select the sent items from the folders that we have. Okay, so now we have set up the inbox and the sent items that we want to integrate into ACT, and we want to match those emails to the contacts in ACT. Another setting we set is an email integration starting date. A lot of our customers don't want the email to integrate from the day one, so they want to start at a particular date. So you can set up here, if you want to start at the beginning of July 2012, you can do that, or even before then, and it will go through all your emails and integrate them. All emails are only integrated once. Once they're integrated, then if you run the software again, they do not get reintegrated. So let's get down to the extract email text to history details option. When this option is enabled, 123Sync email integration will extract the data from the email and put it into the history details. That makes it easy for searching as well as for reading. So let's just have a look at ACT and see what we can get. So if you click on ACT, here we see there's an email sent. This is an email that's been integrated by us. It's the order came in, bond. So we can actually see here on the right hand side is the extraction of the data from the email. So by simply clicking on the email, you can actually see that the data is actually being extracted there. So you really don't have to open the email. If you want to open the email, you just double click on the event, and then right here you have the actual Outlook email as it was. So if you click on there, we just drag it in here, and that's the Outlook email. So now it's a very easy way of integration, and all the data is there for you to manipulate and to read. So back to 123Sync. Now we have the section where exclude email integration for contacts. And this setting is if you have contacts in ACT that you just don't want to integrate any emails to them. No matter what kind of contacts there are, you don't want to integrate any emails. So you enable this option, and then just select a field in ACT, any field that you want. In this case, you can use user 8, and we can tell it no integrate. So when 123Sync finds the email and finds a contact, and if this contact has user 8 to no integrate, no emails are going to be integrated into that contact. So now let's look at the inbox settings. When 123Sync scans for all the emails in Outlook or Exchange on the folder that is being assigned, we have two settings that we have here. One of them is just the sender email address to match that to the contact. So if somebody sends you their sent email address, is going to be matched to the contact fields that you got selected. We do offer a second option that is a very exquisite little option, and one of them is, what if you want to, for example, in a lot of CRM packages you can embed a number on the subject line. What if you have a number on the subject line and you want to match it? So you can say anything between the open and the close parentheses then can be matched to a field in ACT. This is great if you have like an insurance policy email where the insurance policy is actually on the subject line, and usually what happens with users is the email address changes. What we do here, we scan the subject line and then match it to the fields that are in ACT, and these fields can be the insurance policy. Of course, it matches these to these fields that are set up on the ACT fields to search for email address. So we can say it's set here, and you say, okay, I want to my user 6 is my insurance policy. So here it will search whatever it's in here. It will try to match it to email, personal email, and then user 6, which will probably be your insurance policy. Then if when you receive an email, there's a couple of things you can do. You can do nothing. That's what it's set up here. Or you can actually say, okay, I want to set up my user 9 to say new email. So when you receive emails for particular users, we will automatically set user 9 to new email. So when you do a lookup in ACT on user 9 for new email, then they will match that user field to the new email. And very important, we have for each user you can enable the bounce email detection. The bounce email detector, what it does, it searches the emails for any bounced emails and matches them to the contact. So let's have a look at that. So the bounce emails detective is actually driven through an independent set of general settings that applies to everybody that runs the sync. So if you click on the general settings and click on the bounce emails, we'll have a list of all the bounce emails that we identify. So if an email starts, it says right here, if it starts with a deliver has failed, we will scan the email and then find the ACT user that created that bounced email. Or you can say, oh, in the subject, if we inside the subject, if it has delivered and has failed, we can do that. You can edit or you can add bounce email identifiers here. So by doing that, you can do it in Spanish or French or German or any language. Just click on add, and then just add at the beginning of the subject line, or we can say in subject line instead, no ever, something like that, and then just click on add, and now the marker has been added to it, and we can see here it's already been added. So now anything that has no ever inside the subject line there, it will actually be matched to a bounced email, and then we scan the email for any addresses that are valid in ACT. You do have the option to exclude the email addresses here. So what we've seen here is by exclusion is any addresses that you don't want to be part of the scanning, it will do that, especially the addresses with my record. And then we have third, if you find an email that is bounced or a contact that is bounced, we do provide you with an action item there. So you can say, oh, don't do anything. Just basically just match it to the contact, set it as an incoming email, and then just keep processing. Or you can set up a particular field. In our case, is user 3 field to bounce apostrophe. So if you do a search on user 3, you will always find which contacts in ACT are your bounced emails, or create your bounced emails. So let's just go back to the user settings and then go to the next part of our email integration piece. So for every email that gets integrated, the user has a couple of options for privacy. These options are, if the email is a public email, just keep it as public in ACT. That's fine. So if the public coming in into Outlook or Exchange, then it's a public in ACT. Or you can always say some users want all their emails to be private, so you can set up the email as private in ACT. So it gets integrated as a private email in ACT, and only when you change the history in ACT to be public will the users in ACT see it. So that's for the public emails. We do have options for private emails. So if you receive a private email, you have three options that you can actually do with that email regarding the integration into ACT. One of them, integrate as a private email into ACT, or if it's a private email, just integrate it as a public email in ACT, or just do not integrate it. So if it's a private email that you receive and that is marked private, then just don't integrate that email into Act. We do also provide an exclusion field on the subject line. So if some smartphones and some PDAs do not support the private email functionality, you can always add a string like exclude from ACT in parentheses, and 123Sync will identify that and then just say, oh, let's not integrate this email into ACT. So last but not least is what do we do, or what do you want to do once the email is integrated? In many aspects, we can just leave email on the inbox, or delete it from the inbox, or just move it to another folder like an integrated folder. So you have these three options to do that with the inbox as well as the sent items. So once we integrate, you can actually decide, oh, I want to move it somewhere else so it's not on my inbox or on my sent items. Also, when we integrate the emails, you can have the option of adding a tag saying integrated, which means that the email has already been put into ACT, and it will not be actually re-added into ACT. And by doing this, you basically just tagging the email, and you know by just looking at the subject line that this email is already in ACT. So anything that once you run 123Sync is running, anything that does not have the integrated subject line or the integrated tag, that usually means that there hasn't been a match in ACT for that particular user or email. So let's just look at our Studio Designs Lucy Connor in ACT that we sent an email to that individual. On the email, of course, we can see here that we said the order came in and we sent it to Bob at Person CRM. So if we go into Outlook, Bob, after we sent the email, we get an email back that says, oh, this is undeliverable. And what it says is that Bob at Person CRM really does not exist. And this is a report provided to us by the Outlook interface. And it's from this report, then we say, okay, let's have a look at ACT. What happened to this? So we sent an email, the order came in, and it's just telling you, oh, this is a bounced email. So now we can see, if we can just look at the user fields, we can, as the way we set it up, the user field 3, it's bounced. So if we just search on bounce, we will know that this issue actually has to be resolved. So we have to call the individual and then find out what's going on. So if we don't know what caused this, we can actually always find out by simply opening the history and then just clicking here, and that will give us the email that was sent to us and that caused this particular user to be identified as a bounced email. So we do provide you with a mechanism to tracking down what caused this bounce email, whether it was a bad address, or even if it was a rejection by the anti-spam of the software of the individual at the other end. So last but not least, if you receive emails and in some events you want to schedule to-dos to reply to the emails, you can set this up to schedule a to-do for every email you receive. We added this as a customer request, and it will generate for every email that we match a to-do for you to take the appropriate action that you set it to do. So by default it comes set to nothing, so if you decide to use it, this is where to do it. And finally, if you want to integrate an email without actually bypassing our duplicate checking of emails, you can always go into our tools and this will list your email and then will allow you to reintegrate the email. It will not do the bounce email detection, but it's just a way of you attaching an email to whatever contact you want in Act.